you know that France has taken a pretty strong stand. Of course, Macron has put it in a roundabout fashion. You see, people don't want to bluntly oppose the United States. Starmer, obviously, Trump is not very happy with Starmer's stand. So the point is, on the ground where the battle is going on, you see, the Americans are the ones who are supposed to provide the security shield.
But why can't India really say that we will not, we are not going to be complicit in something that's bad for the world, nor contrary to our values and interests? Why can't India speak directly to Trump or even Netanyahu? Prime Minister has just returned from Israel, but even then we can't speak what is really, something that stands for truth.
Truth is hardly a component in realist foreign policy. No one bothers about the truth. The issue here is increasingly in this world is narrow national interests. And as far as Mr. Modi is concerned, he has defined he is the Prime Minister, he has defined narrow national interests as supporting Israel and the United States.
Frager also said that if need be, then the Indian Ocean might be used to refuel the missiles or relaunch the missiles. Now, would Prime Minister Modi allow this to happen if the need arises?
Well, we don't own the Indian Ocean. And, today, near the Indian waters, the ship has been sunk. An Iranian ship has been sunk. And I think another ship has been damaged near India. So yes, the flames of war are coming close to us. But the impact on us will more be from the oil issue.
Mr. Joshi, which are coming from the government, first of all, there is no press conference, there is no briefing. Ideally, when so many of our people are stuck in the Gulf region in this kind of a warlike situation, there is no briefing, there's no bulletin, there's no press conference except for one cabinet committee on security, which we had just about 5 days ago when Prime Minister Modi returned to New Delhi. After that, we've not heard much, except that through the sources, these stories are planted that we have about 50 days of oil reserves, nothing to worry, we can manage. What is the actual situation? Hello and a warm welcome to HW News Network, your one-stop show, truth be told, for some engaging and thought-provoking conversations. It's day 5 of the Iran-Israel war, and what we are told is that Iran is holding a 3-day state funeral for Khamenei, and this news is coming in from the Iranian news agency, that is IRNA. But ahead of the funeral, and amid reports of Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, being named as the successor, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz threatened on Wednesday to assassinate any Iranian leader picked to succeed the 86-year-old Shia Muslim cleric. And what he has said, and I'm going to quote because he's put out a post as well, any leader selected by the Iranian terror regime to continue leading the plan for Israel's destruction, threatening the United States, the free world and countries in the region, and suppressing the Iranian people will be a certain target for assassination, no matter his name or where he hides. This is what he wrote on X. But if you look at the movements as far as the war is headed, what we are told is that Donald Trump is seeking a proxy support. And this is the news coming in from CIA that they will be arming the Kurdish forces for the Iran ground offensive. What the details of the story are that apparently the Central Intelligence Agency, that is CIA, is reportedly working to arm the Kurdish militias to trigger an uprising in Iran. Now, there are 3 sources who have confirmed to CNN that this is a coalition of Kurds living on the Iraq-Iran border, and they have been undergoing military drills in preparation to launch an attack that would destabilize the Iranian forces. And these sources have spoken anonymously. They have said that the militias have been in touch with both the CIA and the Trump administration to secure weapons for their attack, although the particulars of timing and place of uprising have not been decided yet. So, which way is this war headed to, and what can we expect in the coming days? Joining me this evening is security and strategic expert and author Manoj Joshi. So, thank you so much for joining on HW News. And how scary is this news that on one hand is a 3 day funeral which the Iranian government has decided, and Khamenei's son Mojtaba, even before he's anointed, he started getting threats from Israel that he's going to be killed.
Well, that's not surprising because Israel's aims, which the Americans have now accepted, is basically to finish off the mullah regime in Iran. But the problem is they have no idea who can replace it because no one is volunteering. There is no uprising as such. Even if there is an uprising, who will be the face of the uprising? So many of these things are kind of unknowns. As of now, the mullah regime seems quite stable and has been able to manage the succession issue reasonably. The second point you made was about the Kurds. See, the Kurds are just too few in number to conduct any kind of a ground operation against the Iranians. And the second thing is that the Kurds have been let down by the Americans so many times before. Earlier also they had been promised various things. So the question is just how much enthusiasm the Kurds will have. They can be an irritant at best, but they cannot be a serious challenge to the Iranian forces.
No, but what we are told is, and all the news websites have published, that President Trump has apparently spoken to the president of the Democratic Party of Iranian Kurdistan, Mustafa Hijri, and KDPI are among the Kurdish militias being targeted by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran with dozens of drones to curb any popular uprising. So, if Donald Trump has spoken to their president directly, will it make any difference?
No, that's all right. But, we've been there and done it before in the sense there has been Kurdish uprising that has been suppressed by the IRGC. As I said, that the numbers are such. The Kurds are a small group of people. They're also divided. There are Turkish Kurds, there are Iraqi Kurds, and there are Iranian Kurds. Just what way the split will occur, because to arm and equip them, you have to go through the Iraqi Kurds. Now, the Iraqi Kurds have been double-crossed by the Americans, earlier. So I'm still not sure as to how that can play out. I don't think that the Kurds will be a significant player in this Iran versus US and Israel war.
But do you think that Pentagon, or for that matter, even CIA, they are heavily dependent on the Kurdish regional government, or they would have other options? They're just trying to explore this as one option.
I think they're basically looking at this one option, basically trying to build multiple pressure. They will be trying right now to get, let's say, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi, everyone committed into the war. But those people, they have a manpower issue. Many parts of the Saudi peninsula, many of these, Bahrain, for example, the population there is the majority of it are Shias. You see, many of those oil-producing areas are Shia dominant. So I'm not so sure that they can. This is not like what happened in the case of Afghanistan when they got the Northern Alliance to fight on their behalf, and they helped the Northern Alliance, and they captured Kabul. But there, the forces of the Northern Alliance were substantial, you see, and the Taliban were not all that big in terms of size, and so they were able to do it. So here you have an IRGC which is pretty large, which I don't know the figures, but maybe a million strong if you count the militia, the Basij militia. There
Right.
must maybe a million strong. So it's not whether it is feasible or not. Meaning they can use them. Certainly, they can open a front there, no doubt. But I don't think it will go anywhere.
No, but do you think that Trump, on his own, on the individual level, would have taken this call? Because what I'm reading on Telegraph, there's a story which says that a source has said that it was Netanyahu who urged the White House to take cognizance of the Kurds as a force at the forefront of an Iranian regime change. So, do you think that Trump is doing this at the behest of Netanyahu?
He's doing everything at the behest of Netanyahu, meaning the whole war has been at the behest of Netanyahu. You see, so the point that I'm trying to do is get across is that the Kurds are divided into three different, in three different areas, and the notion of a united, Kurdish republic, if I may put it that way, could have larger consequences. They would have consequences. For example, the Turks have just made up with their Kurds. The status of the Iraqi Kurds is still fluid because Iraq itself is a weak regime. But Iran controls its Kurdistan pretty tightly. And so I don't, as I said, the Kurds, they have to receive weapons now. There are reports that they've got training, etc., and some weapons have been flowing to them. But I do need to point out a lot of this often is what should I say? Disinformation, deliberate disinformation to what should I say? To keep the Iranians off guard. When you say
Right.
something, some of these things publicly that the Kurds are coming from the north, the so and so is coming from the south, etc. The fact of the matter is, the Iran is in terms of ground operations, the US would have to commit, and the US has just 50,000 troops there. They're
Yeah.
simply not enough, and Israel is minuscule.
Right. But just for the perspective of the viewers, the Kurds have historically been a regional proxy to the US. They worked together in the Iraq war and in the battles against ISIS. Last year, in fact, the US built a $796 million consulate in Erbil, which is the capital of the semi autonomous Kurdish region, strengthen the ties with the Kurds. But, Mr. Joshi, what I want to ask you is that the friendship between both Kurds with both the US and the Israel, they've been occasionally strained and ambiguous over the years. So relying too much on Kurds, wouldn't Trump be making a mistake, or it is just like what you said? It's a maybe an attention diversion tactics.
Yeah, I think it is an attention diversion tactic. As I pointed out to you, that the numbers and location of where the Kurds are, I do not think makes a substantive difference, to this battlefront. The battlefront is towards the south, facing the Persian Gulf and the Persian Gulf states. You see, so obviously this is a diversion so that the Iranians are spread out. They get more spread out. You see, so this is a diversion. I don't think and it will be at best, in my view, an irritant, for the Iranians.
No, but Mr. Joshi, how much of support now Donald Trump is really getting from the nations across the world? Say, for example, he had mocked and humiliated Spain, and Spain's prime minister has retorted back. In fact, he's doubled down on his opposition to the attack on Iran by the US and Israel, warning that the conflict risked playing Russian roulette with the lives of millions. And Sanchez, in fact, was responding after US President Donald Trump threatened to cut the trade with Madrid over its position on the conflict. How much of the support really, in real sense, does Trump have? Because most of the nations now have started opposing.
Well, you know that France has taken a pretty strong stand. Of course, Macron has put it in a roundabout fashion. You see, people don't want to bluntly oppose the United States. Starmer, obviously, Trump is not very happy with Starmer's stand. So the point is, on the ground where the battle is going on, you see, the Americans are the ones who are supposed to provide the security shield. The Americans are supposed to be the people who are supposed to be protecting those Gulf monarchies. And now that you're seeing repeated attacks and attacks getting through, hitting them, hitting facilities in Saudi Arabia, in Bahrain, in Dubai, means the US has not, these are US protected areas. And the US has failed, meaning there have been attacks from the US based in Turkey, in Inchid Lake. Then there has been an attack in Akitori, which is in Cyprus, you see. And so what I'm trying to say is that the whole thing is spread out, and the Iranian strategy is to spread it out. And basically their message to the world is that if we are going down, we are taking you all with us.
Yeah.
You see?
That's
so all this hugely prosperous area, which has so many opportunities, eventually they will be the ones who will be telling Trump, look, we think enough is enough.
No, but Mr. Joshi, there are nations who are speaking their mind, and they are speaking their heart out. But why can't India really say that we will not, we are not going to be complicit in something that's bad for the world, nor contrary to our values and interests? Why can't India speak directly to Trump or even Netanyahu? Prime Minister has just returned from Israel. But even then, we can't speak what is really, something that stands for truth.
Truth is hardly a component in realist foreign policy. No one bothers about the truth. The issue here is increasingly in this world is narrow national interests. And as far as Mr. Modi is concerned, he has defined he is the Prime Minister, he has defined narrow national interests as supporting Israel and the United States. You see, and the point being that when it comes to Iran, we'll see later. Meaning that's the idea. In the sense, right now we have zero relations with Iran. Already we have cut off oil import from Iran.
Yesterday I saw Modi government was making a song and dance about the fact that they've spoken to a number of state heads of the Gulf nations, and they started naming so and so, so and so, and so and so. So he went on speaking to a number of state heads. What difference does it make if he has spoken to a number of state heads of the Gulf nations?
But speaking to the number of those state heads, basically he has spoken in solidarity with them.
Yeah,
exactly. Basically he has spoken in solidarity and saying that I'm unhappy that you have been attacked. We must do something about it, etc., etc. But he has, I think, very clearly, India has chosen sides here. I don't think there should be any doubts about that. India has chosen sides, and India is working along that policy. After having chosen sides, after having supported Israel and the United States, now India is unrolling the policy, putting it across to these countries, and hoping that, I suppose one hope is that if there is regime change in Iran, then India will be able to make it up with the next regime. You see, if it's an
So, Mr. Joshi, you are saying that till the time the regime change doesn't happen, India will remain ambiguous, and they will deliberately make it a point not to be seen on the side of Iran.
Yeah, that I think is very clear. There is no question of India wanting to be seen on the side of Iran. After all, we accepted American restrictions on buying oil from Iran. We were negotiating this whole business of Chabahar with, we would have to leave Chabahar, because of US pressure. So I think the choices have been very clear. And I think also from our government, the acceptance of those choices also have been fairly clear. They've made no bones about the fact that they are with Israel and with the United States. That they think that in the national interest, that would be the best option as far as India is concerned. As far as Iran is concerned, yes, it's an important country for India, but that could well be in some future. Now the past is gone. It could be well in some future, and we will see to that when it come when the time comes. After all, it's not unusual that relations between two countries uh, go gets ruined on some issue, and then they are made up again, because we are talking of realism out here. Realism, and everyone serving their own national interests or their definition of their national interests. So the issue is, can you in any way say that this is not in our national interests? That what is happening. So you can complain about morality. You can complain about sort of history, that in history we have supported Iran and now we are backing off. So you can say morality, that the Americans are the ones who attacked, Americans and Israelis have attacked Iran, so we should stand with Iran. All that is fine, but the point is that foreign policy is not made through morality. It is made on very narrow grounds of what is perceived as national interest. And in our system, the prime minister is the person who is in charge of the government, and he has decided this is in our national interest.
I was listening to one of the combat veterans of America, Douglas McGregor, yesterday on one of the American digital media platforms, and that interview has gone viral. I suppose it has got more than 20 lakh views. I also wanted your opinion on this. He was saying one or two things, and the first one was that the Trump is running out of options. And yesterday we saw Trump saying that we have an unlimited supply of arms and ammunitions, and we can that supply is not going to end. But the combat veterans were saying, like I'm quoting the one whom I'm quoting, he says that Trump is running out of options, and in the dire distress, Trump might have to depend on India to mediate with Iran. Do you think that a situation like that would ever evolve?
Well, it could happen, in the sense it is true that the United States has expended a lot of munitions in this, and they are running out of the kind of missiles that are needed to shoot down Iranian missiles. Also, the damage that they have suffered, I think they did not anticipate the extent of damage. So as I said, they may come under pressure from the Gulf monarchies, saying that, look, let's call it off. This is damaging our prospects, meaning the shutdown of Dubai or Bahrain or Saudi Arabia. Today, I think the refinery has again been attacked.
Yes.
Oil prices
Yes.
are definitely climbing. You see, people are going to say that we didn't bargain for this, and so we want you. So that kind of pressure, and then he's facing pressure from his MAGA base, who said that you cannot go into for foreign adventures. And of course, the US has probably lost more soldiers and injured and dead than they are acknowledging. But definitely, the damage they have suffered is something which is quite visible, and which I don't think they anticipated. I think McGregor has said that all their bases are out of action.
Yes, in fact, he also went to the extent. In fact, McGregor also said that if need be, then the Indian Ocean might be used to refuel the missiles or relaunch the missiles. Now, would Prime Minister Modi allow this to happen if the need arises?
Well, we don't own the Indian Ocean, and today near the Indian waters, the ship has been sunk. Iranian ship has
Yes.
been sunk, and I think another ship has been damaged near India. So yes, the flames of war are coming close to us, but the impact on us will more be from the oil issue, because 50% of our oil and 50% of our liquid natural gas comes from the Straits of Hormuz.
Just to clarify a little, like when you say that the flames of the war are licking onto India now slowly and gradually, in how would you elaborate this? In what terms? Of course,
Well,
oil is one. where we'll suffer.
well, this ship, which was sunk off Sri Lanka, this was returning from an Indian naval exercise. You know, it had been invited for a fleet review, and it was returning, and it was sunk. Then there are from the NASA, they have a website which shows where fires are. So there are some ships which seem to be on fire, which were close to Indian waters. Now I don't know. Nothing is confirmed. This is a particular satellite which detects this, but we don't know what exactly is. I don't know whose ship it is, because it could very well be an Iranian ship. We don't know. You see. So what I'm trying to say is that the impact. See, the impact's already there. Don't forget, 10 million of our citizens are there. They are having to go through this.
Kind of ambiguous statements, Mr. Joshi, which are coming from the government. First of all, there is no press conference, there is no briefing. Ideally, when so many of our people are stuck in the Gulf region in this kind of a warlike situation, there is no briefing, there's no bulletin, there's no press conference, except for one cabinet committee on security, which we had just about 5 days ago when Prime Minister Modi returned to New Delhi. After that, we've not heard much, except that through the sources, these stories are planted that we have about 50 days of oil reserves, nothing to worry, we can manage. What is the actual situation? And I was reading Brahmachalani's tweet also, where he pointed out clearly that 50% of the oil is coming through Strait of Hormuz, 60% of the LNG is coming through Strait of Hormuz, and 80 to 85% of the LPG is coming through Strait of Hormuz. And we do not have any LPG reserve. We do not have a policy to preserve LPG as such. So how is it going to affect the Indian family households?
Oh, so I think it's very obvious. Yes, you have some kind of an oil reserve, so that can help you. But it remains to be seen. We don't know what is the condition of that reserve. Has that reserve been full? Is that reserve full, half full, quarter full? We don't know. That's something which the government needs to tell us. The other point is the people. If you remember when Saddam Hussein occupied Kuwait, at that time, R.K. Gujral, foreign minister, went there, and we carried out the biggest airlift in history, and we rescued our citizens from there. You see, now 4 days have elapsed in this conflict, but if it goes on for a month, or let's say more, if it's continuous, and if the economies of those areas collapse, then you would need to evacuate your citizens.
No, but how would the evacuation happen, Mr. Joshi, when the airspace is closed? How would that evacuation take place?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, when we evacuated from Yemen, we managed to access a port. Here also, you may be able to access ports in Oman, but we are talking of 10 million people.
Yes.
We are talking of livelihoods which are affected. We are talking of $38 billion worth of remittances. So I'm saying, I'm not talking of, I'm saying the disruptions, the potential disruptions that are there, because we don't know how the war will play out. Meaning, there are some Israelis saying, no, this will end in 4 days. Americans are saying this will end very fast. Trump himself will be saying it may go on for a month.
Right. No, but in fact, this is something speculative which I want to ask, that given the fact that Prime Minister Modi just returned from Israel, I'm assuming that he must be talking to Trump as well, or maybe reaching out to the Trump administration on some way or the other in the wake of this Iran-Israel war. So does Prime Minister Modi exactly know when this war would end? And that is why probably the Indian government officials are sitting pretty comfortable that, okay, we have 50 days of oil reserves. There's nothing to worry.
No. How can Modi? Even Trump doesn't know, because now, you see, starting the war was the choice of the Americans and the Israelis.
Yes.
But to end the war, there is one more vote requires, which is that of the Iranians.
Yeah.
So 3 parties have to be ready to end the war. So and so the point is, even they don't know.
Yeah.
You see, at this juncture, how it will play out. No one really
But
knows.
right. But on the day 5th, sir, if I may ask you, and this is going to be my last question, that who do you think seems to be having an upper edge? Because when you listen to the combat veterans, they say that, America is losing out, even though they are trying to put up a brave face and they are trying to say that, we have all the wherewithal to continue for war as long as we want. But do you think Iran has had an upper edge at the end of day 5 if we look at this war?
Well, the question is, uh, often in these kind of things, what is victory? You see, so you can define victory in classical terms. A overwhelms B, and B surrenders. But in this situation, what victory could mean is resilience. Who survives? I mean, do the Iranians survive? If the Iranian present regime survives, then it has won.
No, but is it only survival, sir? Because at the end of the day, if you look at a war, it needs to have certain goals. But with President Trump, the goals also have been shifting. Sometimes he says, no, we have to secure a nuclear deal. Sometimes he says, oh, it's a regime change. We have to finish Khamenei's entire family. And of course, he's going to eliminate his son also, as what Israel has said, that even before Mujtaba takes over as the next supreme leader, we'll try and eliminate him. So, what is the end goal now? The
No,
goalpost.
see, what I'm saying is that as far as the Americans are concerned, they would like Iran to surrender, and they would like to put certain conditions. That means they would be permanently be a second-class state in the world. That means it would have no nuclear, no missile. Its army would be limited. It would be like a defeated country. But the point is that the Iranians obviously would not agree with it. You see, Iranians would not agree with it, and this is what happened to Germany. Let us say after World War One, conditions were put on Germany. After 4 or 5 years, its situation changed, and the Germans broke out of that this thing, and that led to World War Two. You see, so what I'm trying to say is that if there is an unjust peace, that itself can be destabilizing. An unjust peace with grievances, spilling over, grievances remaining in the Iranian mind. Obviously, it will have. There could be a replay of whatever is happening today in another 10 years. So, what I'm trying to say is that are you really? Is that success or is that failure? So when I say that Iranian resilience is what matters, that if Iran as a state refuses, to accept some of these conditionality and says you come and implement your point, which they can't do. Neither the Americans nor the Israelis can physically come in and run Iran. You see?
Right.
So what do? And the Iranians then, what the Germans did after World War One, secret, remilitarization, developing military facilities. After all, Iran has borders in the north. Iran has links with China. So what I'm trying to say is that there are many imponderables, meaning to think that the Americans would be able to obtain an Iranian surrender is just
Right.
simply not feasible.
Right. My last question before I wind up, Mr. Joshi, is that can India really play a pivotal role in this war, which is engulfing almost the entire Middle East? And so much is at stake, not only for India, but for so many countries. Do you think India can really play a pivotal role? If yes, how, according to you?
I don't think India can play a pivotal role for the simple reason we don't have the wherewithal. In the sense, to play that kind of a role, you have to have some kind of a equity.
No,
You
but
know,
they might not be having a wherewithal. But Prime Minister Modi is seemingly close to both Donald Trump and Netanyahu.
see, no, he may be close to them, but is he close to the Iranians? He's not. Meaning, the point is, he has to have equity on both sides. See, right now, who has equity on both sides? The Chinese have it. They have equity in Iran and they have equity with the United States. We don't have that equity, but the Chinese are not saying they want to play a role. See, so what I'm trying to say is that yes, we can be a postman. We can be a postman. We can carry messages from A to B. But even there, I think our stand on Khamenei's death has kind of
Right.
undermined our case. It's
Absolutely.
true, I'm not so sure we have any kind of a role there.
Right. So you feel that India has lost Iran's trust completely, especially post Khamenei's death.
Yes, I think so.
Right.
I think so.
And that's so unfortunate. It's a country with whom we had civilizational ties. And so here, where we are, we've lost a country which was our cultural and a strategic partner, and we've lost it. Now, whom to blame? Of course, Prime Minister Modi's foreign policy, how he has gone about. But let's wait and watch how things unfold as far as this Iran and Israel war is concerned. Thank you so much, Mr. Joshi, for joining on HW News. Thank you, sir. Thank you.